Came out just in the last day that a US District Court judge, this is David Carter, put out an 18-page opinion. And in it, amongst other things, he identified that in his belief, Donald Trump knowingly lied about specific figures when it came to voter fraud in lawsuits he was involved in. And that, in theory, could have some sort of legal ramifications. For a regular person, Trump is probably gonna be fine. David O. Carter says the emails show that President Trump knew that the specific numbers of voter fraud were wrong, but continued to tout those numbers both in court and to the public. And the reason that the way that they know that he knew it was wrong was these are emails coming from John Eastman. And John Eastman had been advising them to stop using these numbers because they knew they were wrong. They used them again in more court cases. Trump signed off saying that he believed all this be true. So there's a very robust paper trail. Despite that, we want to be fair. Donald Trump did respond. He bleated on Truth Social about this, saying, "Who's this Clinton appointed judge in quotation marks, David Carter, who keeps saying and sending to all very nasty, wrong, and ill-informed statements about me on rulings or a case, whatever, currently going on in California that I know nothing about, nor am I represented. With that being said, please explain to this partisan hack that the presidential election of 2020 was rigged and stolen. Also, he shouldn't be making statements about me until he understands the facts, which he doesn't." Which is almost like a perfect response, because he is responding to a clear paper trail demonstrating that he was told that numbers he was using were false, and then he decided to keep using them anyway. So why wouldn't he say that the judge pointing out that that's wrong doesn't understand the facts? Again, like, I guess there's a lot of articles about this development over the past day. New York Times is a write-up, lots of places have write-ups. And I kept looking at more and more, and the reason I did that was I kept looking for, so what's the consequence for doing this? And there was really nothing about it. Like, I guess you can just lie. I guess that's just fine. Sworn statements, just lying about numbers that form the basis of voter fraud lawsuits that you're filing in multiple courts. I guess you could just get away with that, AB. I don't know, you're the trained lawyer. Does that track with your experience?
Law student.
Sorry.
I'm graduate till May. Well, you think so, right?
I'm gonna round up, you're close.
I'm this close, right? When you think about the president, right? We give them a pass on certain things because we're like, oh, we want them to be able to do their job, right? But this is the thing, we can say that the election was rigged, right? Because it was rigged against the people who were legally eligible to vote, who a lot of Republican legislators made it hard for them to vote or impossible for them to vote, right? That's what was rigged. It was rigged by Trump when he told his supporters not to mail in their mail-in ballots. You stole the election from Biden, if you ask me, because you told your people not to vote. You told them, oh, don't use the mail-in ballots, right? So the only numbers we see are the numbers where people were suppressed from being allowed to vote, legally eligible to vote and not doing it. And then you telling your own people like, no, don't mail in your ballots. And so they didn't. And so you rigged it yourself if you want to make that argument. On the other hand, there is no legal consequence, right? Because we don't really have the same voter protections that we had years ago, right? Before 2013, we'll say. So those things are kind of, pushed to the wayside a little bit. And so he may not get consequences for lying. But it's this particular lie on top of the other lies and stealing the documents that may all come together in one crime, right? Because now you're seeing intent and now you're seeing the actions behind the intent. So that could lead to him being charged with something else and being found guilty of something else, but it just won't be this particular lie. That lie is just gonna add to the other group of issues he got.
I'm really glad that you're reminding me about their messaging around the mail-in ballots, because of course it isn't just that they're against it as a policy, but yeah, you're right. They were actively inspiring their voters to not take part and to say that the election is gonna be fraudulent and that their vote isn't gonna count. Madness. And then they weren't happy to just do that in the 2020 presidential election. Then with the fate of the Senate, like in the balance, they told people that they wouldn't be able to trust the Georgia election either. In advance of it, they told them not to vote, and they were close. They were close elections. Massive idiots. It's like when they told their fans for a year and a half, COVID's not real. You shouldn't do anything about it. And then like when we passed 1 million people dead, they were like, isn't this so bad that Biden has failed on COVID? Like, can you take these things seriously and then you won't have to complain about them later on? Anyway, we'll see what ends up happening with this. Often we will end stories like this saying that we're going to be keeping track of it and letting you know. But honestly, at this point, there's just too many legal challenges to Trump. I'm not going to. Somebody out there, could you take care of this one and let me know, and then we'll get back to you about it.